I gave myself a little bit of time in between videos, but we have to address this issue. Okay. I know by now everyone knows about this. And it's going to have that feeling of FBAs are being attacked, and for the most part I understand how you all feel. And if it did offend people, we get why. Basically, if you know about Evansville, Indiana, I only know because I worked with a person that grew up there, and I think his daughter got her master's degree there while he was probably a service member. Then he worked with me with a former job at a former job, and he retired in 2022, 2023. By now, he should have moved back to Evansville. Nice small little town, I suppose. Evansville did what it thought it should do and is standing by that decision. But evidently, certain outside agitators feel the need to get involved in it. For the record, let me state my position on this because it's going to come offensive to a lot of FBAs. For years, I didn't believe in reparations because I felt like that was something that had happened back then. And in time, for me, it evolved to if you live the civil rights movement and Jim Crow and back, you deserve it. And I'm still at that point right now. While I don't believe we should be handed a check, as there was a YouTuber I got this from, but I will not say that person's name because, again, I didn't get their permission to say, and I made this video on a whim. I'm all for reparations if it's given in a tax break to give us time to build wealth that way. The fact that this is a class action lawsuit, the reason I'm making a big deal out of this is because by now we should all know someone doesn't want these reparations to happen. If you can take anything out of Evansville, you can take this out of this situation, okay? In order for reparations to happen, if they are going to happen, because I'm not holding my breath at all. For reparations to happen, they're going to happen at a federal level. Because when you go at a local level like this, it's doomed to fail. This has been going on for a while now. And now people want to come out and we want to sue because we think if you're singling out one race, you're not equal and everything is equal. And that's the problem in the United States. People have a skewed identity associated with equal equity and equality. Don't get me wrong. I believe that people are more able-bodied than they pretend to be, and there are people who hide behind their skin color to do nothing. But there are also still barriers in certain aspects. You must understand that there are people alive right now, like both of my parents, and I imagine some of you all's parents that are baby boomers, very few people in the traditional time that lived through physical redlining. That still happens now, but was a for real thing when they were growing up. See, there are still lots of people around who lived Jim Crow, who lived lynchings and understand the repercussions of that. I have a sick theory after I read this today. Because now you got an increasing amount of black people talking about we don't need reparations. I'm still for reparations for anybody born in the civil rights movement and back. Because again, they lived in segregated schools. They didn't have the opportunities that we have. But it's a scary amount of black people now. And I used to be one of these, I'll confess, because if you look me up, you'll find out that I was. So there's no reason for me to hide it. And thinking back, I have an immense amount of shame for not seeing both sides of it. Because I tried to make myself believe in my teen years into early 20s that we lived in a post-racial society. I snapped out of it by the almost the 2010s. I snapped out of it. We're doing this thing now because people can freely move according to skin color and can do what they want and go where they want and not be hindered by that. We're assuming that we live in a post-racial society. My sick theory on this, and I want to be wrong, but I don't think I am, is that they're wanting a crap ton of people to die off, and people are going to keep pretending that that reparations are gonna come for those who deserve it and don't. And meanwhile, they're gonna keep on weakening the younger people into thinking, well, you didn't grow up in that. You were only born in the 21st century, and so you don't understand what that is. That's the past. That's the past, and just leave it alone and let it go. But why is it that when other ethnic groups get monetary payment, get bills passed in the House and the Senate, we're not letting that go? And see, that's the thing that burns my behind the most, considering that there was recently a lady in, I think it was Oklahoma, with whom I think it was the FBI that came to her house and said, hey, we suspect that whoever owned this house prior to you may have killed a lot of people. She immediately cooperated. She didn't have to. She could have asked them to get a warrant, but she immediately cooperated, only to find out that her yard was a mass graveyard for white supremacists who were killing black and Hispanics in that neighborhood. People come up missing, no one knew, and their bones were found and their remains were found in that yard. She had no clue. They sold that house in a hurry. To her left, house dug up. Next thing you know, she's living on the bones of people who were killed, and she had no clue. See, it's little incidences like that. And then there's the young man in Mississippi who came out of a police station and was chased down by a truck. Next thing you know, they found him dead. That was fairly recent. Affirmative action, I don't have much to say about, because we weren't benefiting from that anyway, so I don't get emotional about that. When that went away recently, we don't. But this is the sick feeling that I have. See, Evansville as a community, regardless if people agree or disagree, this community did what it thought it was best for that community. Whether I like the decision or not, that's what this community has done. So why are we unnecessarily rocking boats that don't need to be rocked? And it goes back to my sick theory. Keep allowing blacks who are old enough to know their history and to understand what happened die off, and allow this reparations talk to die with them. Because if you can keep convincing a person that it's just the past and that it's not that big of a deal. And now I question my dislike of critical race theory being taught in schools, because now when you tell a person that their history is not a big deal and that it happened back then and it's not happening to them now, then they don't see generational wealth and legacy and restitution. It's quite clear to me with all these losses. Oh, that's because we're equal, when the people who are touting this know that equality is a lie. It doesn't exist. When we keep playing these games, it's just going to hurt younger black people in the end. If you are a proponent for reparations, I'm not saying either way. This conversation can go back and forth. Understand that there's an element in this country that wants you to forget what happened to you or what happened to your ancestors, because if you've lived through Jim Crow and desegregated schools, a lot of those people are still alive. They hadn't forgotten. Don't let them squash your history.